A little over a decade ago, I had gotten married, and we secured our apartment after my cousin moved out of state. She said that the place was nice and never mentioned anything else. The layout was pretty simple. It was a duplex with a very large living room attached to the kitchen-dining room combination, with the back door at the kitchen. Where the living room met the kitchen, you could go right, and there was a hallway that led to the smaller back bedroom immediately to the left, on the opposite wall of the kitchen. There was a small room for laundry and such, then the bathroom, followed by the bigger bedroom at the front of the house. When we first moved in, I had my PC at the front of the house, next to the window, so I could see anyone coming to our home, know when the mail had arrived, etc. While there, I would always feel cold, also with a feeling of being watched. It didn't matter how much clothing I wore, that cold feeling would not fade. After a week of being there, I opted to move my PC to the other side of the room, next to the opening to the hallway, where I could see into the back room very easily. During this time, I could never sleep. I always felt like someone was there in the room, and this level of discomfort was unshakable. I started to feel extreme levels of paranoia and constantly felt nauseous. I told my wife, now ex-wife, that I didn't like the back bedroom and that I wanted to move the bed to the front bedroom instead. She was confused about why I felt that way, but I just explained myself, and she agreed because she was now on edge. Her reaction to me telling her this came off as odd. While streaming, now a retired streamer, Minecraft one night, my wife was visiting her family in Missouri, but was watching, and for a moment, I thought I had seen someone in the back bedroom. I froze completely because I was certain I saw a black silhouette. I collected myself, thought that being alone was getting to me, and I was just seeing things. So I got up, closed the door, and then went back to my business. A few days later, while on the toilet, I heard someone walking up and down the hallway. I froze in place again, but was frustrated, and with a very authoritative voice said, "Stop it," and the footsteps stopped. Once she was back, she noticed that I was closing any door when I slept, and would often lock the door, like this was going to do anything, and I would only sleep during the day. My paranoia had gotten bad, but I knew something was wrong. One night after I cooked and we did the dishes together, we were watching a movie and then heard the dishes moving around at times. Out of fear of bugs or rats, even though this wasn't a bad place to live, I just figured I didn't set the dishes up properly and they fell over. This started to become a regular thing, even when dishes weren't out. So now, feeling this level of paranoia that the place is haunted, I tell my wife directly that when the lease is up, we are out. She then tells me that it may continue even if we moved places. She then tells me that her stepdad was treated poorly by her mom, and he was like a real dad to her. To spare the full details, he would sleep under the porch because she wouldn't let him in the house, and my wife's connection with him was strong. He ultimately passed away, and she did something that blew my mind. She had experimented with things before we were together to try and get him to speak to me. I don't know everything that she did, but I know it involved a pentagram on the ground and other things. So now I am in this state of mind where, is it him? Does he not like me? Did she summon some sort of demon and not him? She never told me this during our dating phase, and apparently, she never was going to tell me until this happened. Stupefied was an understatement. We continued to live there, and I tried my best to deal with it while counting the days down to move out. I had eventually become so used to things that I just didn't pay too much attention to it anymore, and people would make jokes about our ghost roommate. Even on the day we moved out, my cousin was helping us, and she said, "Say bye to the ghost." And while I was not there for this moment, they, cousin and wife, both swear they saw 2 dishes move. After we moved out, I finally found out the landlord's husband died there a decade and some change before we lived there. My family and I moved into our new rental house about 6 months ago. It's a 2-unit house that was built in the early 1900s, and we live on the 2nd floor. The house is located in a historic town in the Midwest and is about a 5-minute drive from the house my mother grew up in. Anyways, in order to do laundry and store our stuff, we have to go down to the basement. Now, I'm really not one who gets creeped out by conventionally scary things. In fact, I love horror movies, games, gory things, etc. When we first moved into our new house, my sister and I joked about how there was probably some ghost of a serial killer who lived in the basement since the place is so old. But now, I'm starting to think that maybe there really is something or someone down there. At first, I didn't think much of the basement. Sure, there's no windows, 100-year-old wooden beams, tons of cobwebs, and exposed brick, but nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, in the last place we lived for about 3 years, my bedroom was in the basement. Granted, it was redone and modern, and the complete opposite of our basement now. The basement is split off into 2 different sections, so our neighbor's place sits right above it, and they have the right section of the space, whereas we have the left section. There's plenty of storage down there, but our section is basically just a long hallway with a washer-dryer, and then this weird room at the back of the space. It's sectioned off with a wooden door with super long nails poking out of the beams. At first, when we got to our new place and I started to do laundry, nothing was out of the ordinary. But I feel like the more I go down into the basement, the more I'm starting to realize how the energy is just off down there. It's so difficult to explain what feeling I get, but it's just very dark, like physically and also mentally, because I can feel this kind of darkness inside of me whenever I go down there. I am a very sensitive person with a sensitive spirit. I believe in ghosts and the paranormal and also auras, energies. I believe that rooms and places and people hold all kinds of energy, and they can last for decades and centuries if they're strong enough. Usually, when I go into the basement in the daytime, it's not that bad, and definitely not as strong. Nighttime is a totally different story, though. Just tonight, I went down there to get some laundry out of the washer. I've noticed how I tend to avoid looking at the space off to the right that has the weird blocked-off wooden room. The energy was so dark down there tonight. I felt it pressing down on me, like someone was watching me. So I quickly got the things out of the washer and made my way up the stairs. But I had the feeling and intuition that I shouldn't turn my back, because every time I travel up the stairs, I have to turn the lights off behind me. So it's just this gaping dark hole at my back that leads down to the basement. The entire time I walked upstairs, I looked behind me, and the moment I stepped back into my place, I felt that heavy weight lifts off of my shoulders. Our landlord told us that this house was built before the war, and there are definitely signs of that. The section that we live in, on the 2nd floor, was the maids' quarters. But there are also weird aspects of our place that are very off-putting, like the random boarded-up door in my sister's closet that's so small only a child could fit through. We have no idea what's behind there, but we think it could have been used as a safe space during the World Wars. I honestly, truly believe something bad happened in our section of the basement, namely, that one sectioned off room. Maybe it's my mind and paranoia playing tricks on me, but there almost seems to be an evil presence down there. I would say I am very aware of the paranormal and things of that nature. My parents' house is over 100 years old and is next to the Catholic church my mom, brother, and I were baptized at. Now, this is where it gets interesting. In the 1950s, during the middle of a sermon, the priest who was living in the house attached to the church was having a heart attack or something of that nature. The people living in the house at the time brought him to their bedroom, which is now our living room, where he later died. Years later, when I was about 8 or 9, I had just woken up from a nap on our recliner in our living room and was still groggy. I remember Mom had a plant in the middle of the doorway for some reason, and as I turned my head to see where I was going to avoid bumping into the plant, for 2 seconds, I saw a man without a face, but was wearing a hat. I don't know if it was a trucker or baseball cap, but it was a hat, maybe 3 feet in front of me. The only reason I know it was real is that a year later or so, I was watching TV in Mom's room and was about to get up to go to the bathroom. When I looked at the door, I saw the same guy standing there for a couple of seconds, and then he was gone. I've heard things too, but nothing was as creepy as those experiences, besides hearing my mom's voice twice. Once when she was at work, I heard her call my name from the dryer room downstairs and asked Dad if Mom was home, and he said no. The other time, my mom, Dad, and I were all home, and I heard her call my name from the top floor, but it didn't feel right. I didn't respond for a couple of minutes because it felt off, and I know never to respond if it doesn't feel right. I asked Mom if she called my name a few minutes ago, and she said no. Those aren't even the weirdest things that happened. I have a long-distance girlfriend. She and I talked on the phone every single day for just a little over a year before we physically met. She'd always tell me about how she'd always see the previous owner walking around the house, who died naturally on the patio, but she never once described what he looked like. The day happens where we finally meet wonderfully and everything goes normal, until I wake up at about 3-ish in the morning to take a piss. She's still asleep, and I get up and walk past the closet next to the bathroom. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw what looked like a guy with glasses wearing a blue flannel but didn't see any legs. It took me a second to register what I just saw, and I looked where I saw him, and he was gone. I take my piss, not really worried about it, go back to the room and ask my girlfriend, "So you know the guy, does he wear glasses and a blue flannel?" She said, "Yeah. Why?" I said, "Well, I just saw him." That still gives me chills to this day, almost 3 years later. Last summer, I even asked her if she ever saw him near me. She said she saw him standing behind me as we were cooking, and that gave me even more chills. This was the first time since high school that I had seen anything, and it's also the last time currently that I've seen anything. I don't know what it is because I'm not religious anymore, more agnostic, and this shit creeps me out and fascinates me at the same time. Thanks for watching our video. Have you ever had a really scary experience? We want to hear about it. You can tell us in 2 ways. Option 1 is, write down what happened and email it to us. The email address is in the description below. We're excited to read your story and learn all about what happened. And the second option is, record your story using your phone's recording feature. Make sure the sound is good, with no background noise. We want to make sure everyone can hear your scary story clearly. Pick whichever option works best for you, and let's explore your spooky experiences together. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.